first slide.
Yep.
Slide has four images.
Yeah.
So for those, I see there are a lot of new people, some new faces. So I'm Casey Ng. I'm in charge of Forever Sabah's initiative called Freshwater for Future. I'm concerned with the physical, chemical, and biological properties of freshwater system in Sabah. So my initiative has to do with facilitation, engagement with community, the government agencies, and of course the NGO. So the first slide shows what I did for the past few months. So WWF invited us to give some training on community participation. They run a lot of community participation in Peninsular Malaysia. So we shared our knowledge and all that with them. The second picture is Hutan operates from Kampung Tukau in Kinabatangan. So sometime about April, I was there to train the Orang Kampung there on how to use fish as biological indicator for the pollution in the rivers. And then about 1 month later, I arranged National Singapore University to go to FRC Sepilo. We wanted to start a taxonomy center in FRC in Sepilo. So now National University of Singapore is working together with FRC to produce an MOU. They hope the MOU will be signed during Hub of Borneo conference. So I hope this will be a reality because NUS is the world leader in species taxonomy. And then of course the usual stuff, the community work. We train the Orang Kampung in Babagon, 3 villages on aquatic species monitoring. The next slide is something quite new. I'm also I'm also in charge of high conservation value 4. 4 has to do with ecosystem services, meaning for freshwater, the services is the watersheds we have in Sabah. Is supposed to supply us fresh water for drinking, for industrial use, for fisheries, for agriculture and all that. So many things we can control. I mean, we can use policy to control, such as the pollution that goes into the river, the tagal, the water intake. But there are certain things that we can't control, and the key thing is the climate. So far nobody knows what is the climate, what is the effect of El Nino, La Nina, what is the drought. And as we know, because the crocker range divide Sabah between the east and the west coast, we know the rain patterns are different. But so far there's no study on it. So recently I had one intern coming in from Oregon State University. I'm still working with her to collect all the data we have from Peru, Hawaii, Darwin, Indonesia, and Sabah to correlate the events of El Nino to Sabah. In a few months' time, we will produce a report to positively identify all the regions of Sabah, what is their rainfall patterns, when is the wet season, when is the dry season. So the data can be used for especially gravity-fed system for the Orang Kampung to take precaution when is the wet season, when is the dry season. It will also be very good for agriculture, and of course it will be important to finally once and for all we know where is wet and what season for rainwater harvesting. And then the third slide would be the citizen science part, the species level part. Very happy because we found something quite very new. As you can see on the left picture, there's one girl holding a kind of a fat eel. This is anguilla. If you can find anguilla in the local river, it means from the sea to that kampung, the river is still great, because this anguilla, they need to travel from fresh water to salt water to spawn and complete their life cycle. So people in Kolosunan could find the anguilla in their river. So this is a new record. And then secondly, this small little fighting fish species at the center, it is all scientific papers says it can only be found in Chias Kias Peninsula. Nowhere else in the world. It's only found in Kias Peninsula. Recently, the guys in Kuala Sunan found it in their kampong. So, besides Kias, now we are also finding it in Kuala Sunan. So this is a very good news again. And again, this is a new record. This species is only found in Sabah so far, nowhere else in the world. So, Kuala Sunan and Kias. And then I just established contact with one kampong in Membakut. It's called Kampong Pimping. They host another very special fish called the bumblebee goby. It's on the right side of the picture. So this is also a very special fish. I tried to establish contact in Kota Belud, tidak jadi. So I have to go there and try again to try to pioneer to find more kampong who is interested in this. Thank you. Right on the dot.
Okay. So Dr. K. Yoganan is next. He's not here, so I'm going to help him try to do his presentation.
You're going to channel him.
He's in India. I don't think I can channel Yogi. So as you know, he's in charge of the forest part of the world. So let's go down to the next picture. FMU 5, the milestones. We've been able to change land use from large-scale tree plantation to reduce impact logging based logging. Anyways, in this current FMP. So NGOs are now part of the, we don't really call it co-management, but it's kind of co-governance structure. And an MOU is being drafted to specify the commitments, and we hope to sign it on part of Borneo. And this is the first that government, the company, and NGOs are at the table to manage that area. Acceptance of conservation economy option, carbon, hydro, etc., all being explored. Next. So before, as you can see, this is the land use plan. Everything that's yellow was going to be plantation. So salvage logging, meaning bought up everything and then plantations. Now what we have is reduced impact logging and very, very strict kind of protocols that we've been trying to influence as well. The size of the tree, where, taking in, the laws on slopes, etc., etc. So the white areas are all community forestry areas, totaling about 4,000 hectares that we will be working with the communities to develop. They cannot develop palm oil. It has to be, forestry related. The green areas, I believe, are the conservation areas. This yellow area is the only area where they will have plantation. Okay, next. So what are the conservation impacts? Avoided deforestation of 40,000 plus hectares, reduced loss of orangutan habitat, we prevented loss of forest connectivity, reduced damage to streams and rivers, protection of village gravity water supply catchments, about 2,400 hectares. So I think this is also a new thing. What happened was the team went in, mapped the watersheds of the communities, and handed in the coordinates to Sabah Forestry, and next map, I think, So we took out all the compartments that are the watersheds of the various kampongs, and they will be excluded in the harvest plan. I think that is in many ways at first. I don't know, John, if you know that that's happened before, but as far as we know, it hasn't happened before. And for us, why is this a milestone? This is paving the way of how we want to engage with government and companies to manage the FMUs in the future. So why is the 25-year management plan important? Is because it sets policy for the future. And then after that, all the FMUs, as the FMPs are revised, because every year, 10 years they revise, they will start to orient towards the new forest management. And we want to be at the table for that. And this is the start. So the MOU signing is going to be pretty major, groundbreaking event. I think that's it.
Great. Good morning. Maggie. Here's the first slide. So, I think we maybe need a super quick background for some people, including new recruits here for the Roads Project. Oh yeah, you went upstairs, of course. Basically, the Roads Project is a collaborative project with the James Cook University, who's doing a scientific study on the environmental, social impacts of road infrastructure in 3 countries in Asia Pacific, so Malaysia, Indonesia, and Papua New Guinea. And Forever Sabah and Leap have been asked basically to handle the sort of advocacy around this project in Malaysia, to try to ground the research in what is actually happening here, in particularly decision-making processes that need to include the science or would benefit from inclusion of the science, particularly the Sabah structure plan being developed into district-level plans, I believe. Yeah, or so I have used this image because it's been a very interesting process in the past few months, in particular, having the project really come in baby steps, I guess, towards the relationship with James Cook University and also with the woman, Gina, who's been facilitating this arrangement, to understand really what is the role of science, what is the role of advocacy, and then the role of media communications as well, in projects like this that can hopefully really have a tangible impact on decision making and on the ground. So over the last few months, and maybe Nikki will share some So in the last few months we've had various meetings with different government departments, EPD, UPenn, Town Regional Planning, I guess Masidi is tomorrow, and so on, and also with people like Janet Go and so on. And also with the research team themselves, so with Dr. Bill Lawrence and others. And I think the image of, the bridge,
sorry.
not yet, is that a hint? I need to keep moving. The image of the bridge going over these sort of rocky, slightly kind of waters is a bit of that trepidation at first of how do we actually build this relationship with a pretty bullheaded scientist, to be honest, with his own way of doing things, and we have our own way of doing things, and we need to really find a new way of working together to make sure that science is not extractive and it also is actually very long-term relevant. So I think it's a lot of relationship building, a lot of process, process, not only outcomes. But I think we've gotten through some initial impasses or perceived impasses, and I think it's actually going to be a really good project, hopefully with some really strong government involvement as well. I guess that's it for next. So FPIC Guide, the courtesy of Lingit for the photo from from the World IP Day celebrations last month. And I like it because he's like a bit scared of FPIC as well. Which many people are, it seems, in the FPIC, free, part, and informed consent is one of the main pillars of RSPO certification. It's also, of course, a central tenet of Indigenous people's rights for any proposed developments that may affect them. And in the jurisdictional approach, basically one of the main tasks is to try to adapt RSPO's FPIC guide to the Sabah context. So there's been a long-ish process so far over the past almost 2 years, I think. Jenny starting it with Juby and so on. Now Agnes and Adam have taken it on to try to, get us to the next revised version. We have some issues in the working group in terms of getting people substantively involved, which is not unusual. But I think, in terms of next steps, we really need some more government agencies involved who are involved in the sort of permissions framework for development projects. Particularly, we are trying to position the FPIC work in the broader context of projects, development projects in Sabah. So it doesn't only apply to Oakham, but also to all potential developments. Next, super short on time. So legal research and seminar. We also have one of our lovely interns here, Shalene, way in the back there. We've been very lucky to have a number of really wonderful interns over the past few months. Ashley,
It's okay.
they're doing really great work. Three interns in the past have worked on one on Commonwealth legal framework. Shalene and Ashley, who's just left after a month, are doing one on riparian reserves, which is super important. We've also been running a seminar with, I think, 4 or 5 interns on political and legal ecology. And we have also accepted the next batch of 4 University of Queensland interns for January and February, so that continues as well. I think that's it.
Alright, so as you know, one of the things I've been doing is supporting this citizen science effort, people monitoring their own environment so that they can use it for whatever they need to do. Dragonfly is a very powerful way of understanding what's happening to your forest, your watersheds. These last months we've been doing a lot of training with young people and others in various, particularly in Chalupid in the strong project with Valley, but in Babylon. Main thing that's really struck me from this training is how much enthusiasm there is from young people for this and how well they do it, and how the aunties get really into it too. Very, very interesting. In Babylon, quite surprising, I knew that place would be diverse, but I've been astonished by how diverse. We now have at least 74 dragonfly species identified there, which is higher than I think any location that has been recorded in Borneo recently published literature. And we're still going. When I went overseas for 2 weeks last time, Casey set up kind of a competition that really was a way for us to find out how much people already can do and know themselves with fish and dragonflies. They found 18 new species in that 2-week period, working part-time. One of the community scholars in that was able to identify almost every species that they caught, including species that they had never caught before, which again was very surprising. Other communities not as far along as that, but nevertheless a very good indication of the level of capacity that they have already generated. Like Casey, we have new records. We have records of species not recorded previously in Sabah. We have the species where the male or female has not been seen before in the wild. We found, and also we have species that we're unable to identify. Some of which will turn out to be species known elsewhere in the region maybe, and some may turn out to be new species. Next slide. Milestone. So first milestone is training has happened. Second milestone is this is the meeting. Wasn't at this meeting. Cynthia and others can tell you more about what happened at this meeting. But my experience of watching this Kupi and so on was that, and talking to the guys and girls, this is the community of Babylon presenting to government for the first time what they're doing. And it's amazing how in a period of a few months they've gone from feeling that government is either distant, hostile or indifferent, and they have nothing to say about issues, to the apparent confidence and strength with which they're able to present what they're doing in general. But one component of this was that they were able to talk about the fact that they were doing citizen science, they were monitoring their own environment, they were discovering a lot, and they felt this stewardship responsibility, and were able to talk about that with confidence, which is an amazing milestone. I was hoping that might happen in 2 or 3 years. Well, it's happened in a few months. Really exciting. One of the things they discussed on that occasion was this whole issue of the permitting. Do indigenous communities in Sabah need a permit to monitor the biodiversity in their catchments? And it's a somewhat grey area, and we've also been encouraged, this meeting encouraged us to talk to forestry about that, and we're already talking
SABC.
forestry, but SABC is the permitting authority. So we need to have some kind of discussion with SABC, not just about dragonflies and bubble, but about the whole question of how citizen science can be permitted. Moving into publication very quickly, sorry, not this one yet. With the community are excited about publishing the list of all the dragonfly species they've got. They want to have 100 species before they do that. That would be really amazing to see if we can get to 100. Another paper that will talk about fish citizen science, the dragonfly citizen science, the water quality measurements in the context of water, of managing the watershed, and an application of citizen science could be very interesting. Last slide. Oil palm. When we were in Tulupa on one training, they were taking us to a place they wanted to do the investigation. Walking through oil palm, no dragonfly, hardly any dragonflies at all, and very, very few species. When I asked why, somebody pointed behind one of the trunks, and there was a whole, bunch of empty gallon containers of Roundup, one of the nastiest, most widely used herbicides. So we're still investigating what's the relationship there? Is it to do with the destruction of vegetation that supports the food, or is it actually poisoning dragonflies?
Thank you. For sustainable, certified sustainable palm oil, so we have recently we have this HOS. So
Heart of Sabah.
Heart of Sabah. So a lot of these smallholders come from this from 4 districts: Talupit, Kinabatangan, Buluran, and Kamor. So they are very happy on that because they've been sharing what is the issue in each of the districts. And then a part of that, they also have a chance to meet all these officers from egg departments. But what we want is to bring land and survey also on that day, to give it some presentation to the community, the smallholders. Then we have a few meetings also with this working group. One of these is meeting at the egg department. So at last, the director of egg say they want to share the smallholders. That's a good news that looking at the best management practice. So part of that, we are doing some final work at the common area for the baseline. So by next week, I think we have done the baseline. So we already done the 4 district baseline. So hopefully we can send it to Nikki as soon as possible. Then part of that, we went to do some this FMU fact finding mission, where we went to the whole village. But it's a good indicators from the communities that they are willing to work with us. So there's one village lah. Of course, they are said that Akos is very bad also. So okay lah. So I think that's all. I think for me.
Okay, guys. As you know, actually, I hope to do this in tandem with Neville, if he's there. I will talk a little bit about the few points that I have about the CBES Central, and then maybe say 1 or 2 bits about what Rosalie's been doing with Neville. Yeah, so basically, you probably all know that I'm mostly focusing on the CBES Central, which is the campus for CBES at Cockbell. A few things happening here over the last couple of months. This is been just come out of the busiest time for us. So just had 600 over volunteers come through over the last 2 months. This probably represents about a quarter of annual income, so it's a pretty big time for us, plus about another 200 or 300 tourists, just regular tourists alongside that, so it's been a busy couple of months. In terms of the work output for these guys, they cleared the south end of the lake, on the Salvania on the Tomab Lake, which is good news, and then we've planted over 6,800 trees during that period in a new restoration site. So maybe point number two, picture number one, or point number two is basically the work on the Salvania. The south end of the lake we're keeping clear manually. Work with the beetle or the weevil, the biological control. We're still breeding the weevil. Last month we had another delegation from Sabah Ag Department to bring another batch of weevil transfer to our breeding station. I think it's another 1,000 beetles was passed to us last month. So our breeding program is ongoing. We want to start the release, but actually the release is being held up now by our conditions with the forestry department, because every year we're audited. The FSC audits, basically we're certified on the FSC in collaboration with forestry department, so our work gets audited every year. The audit this year picked up what they call a minor CAR, which is a corrective action request. So they're basically requesting us to comply with all the current laws, basically demonstrate that there's an integrated pest management program happening in Sabah, and then all the other potential methods haven't worked. So basically this is what we've actually been doing over the last 10 years and also over the last 3 years in particular, in terms of the law and so on. But in terms of this corrective action request by the FSC auditors is basically a question of documentation. So in the process now of working with the Agriculture Department to get all the documents ready in terms of what we're doing to comply with the local laws and what we've done in terms of previous action to try and get rid of the Salvania and what we're actually doing now in terms of the overall integrated pest management of this particular weed in Sabah. So that's current documentation, and we have to do that in terms of our certification before we can actually do our release. So okay, that's the status of the weed. I think in terms of just Seabase Central, as you all know, I'm focusing on the actual core part of it to try and sustain, I guess, ultimately financially the core, which is Coppel. Bulk of the income comes through tourist revenue. There's some revenue that goes directly from forestry department into restoration work. But in terms of the actual margin, or the bit that actually goes into Coppel core from that restoration work is nominal. It's like almost nothing. And in fact, Coppel, the tourism revenue, actually supports the restoration work in a big way. So in terms of Coppel being able to sustain itself as a tourism training center or a center for other communities to come, in terms of funding that, a couple of things that have come up over the last couple of months. One is we put in an application back in March for a small grant under UNDP. So that seems to be coming together, and the UNDP grant, hopefully, if it comes through, should fund the preparation of training modules to go online next year. So that's something that's in the pipeline. And then there's a EU-funded RED Plus program in Kinabatangan, which has been going very slowly over the last 3 years. Basically, the Forestry Department is appointing Coppel to lead that process now between between Bataputi and Bala. So there's 3 communities that's targeted there, and this work will help continue funding of Rosley's work under Seabase, plus actually expand that work into that mid reaches of the Kinabatangan going up. Okay, in addition to that, probably just to say a couple of things, and hopefully Neville can pick up on this. The work that Rosley's been doing in the Ramsar area, if I can just speak mostly to the 2 bits that are sort of tourism related. So he's working with Dagat community or Abai community for some time already. Dagat community is new, and they're moving forward with this. Apart from the strategic plan they developed earlier, This year, moving forward, they've set up a tourism association at the village level, which is great news. And basically doing preparation for gearing up to get their homestay and everything up and running again. The Sri Ganda community has, thank you, the Sri Ganda community has going ahead with their tagal and they're targeting angling tourism or fishing tourism in a big way in that area. Apart from that, maybe one or two small things to say. Momian's focusing on water quality management, monitoring, Pitas Laut is developing an aquaculture or fish breeding program as an alternative livelihood. And the Abai community has been working on some restoration work. And similar to our work, has a lot of problems with floods over the last couple of months. So I'm not sure if Neville, you want to pick up and add to any of that. That's my piece. Thank you.
Okay, so actually I didn't necessarily do milestones to date as in the past year or so, but I can just expand as we go. So the work that I'm doing is a lot of spatial work, so a lot of planning work that looks at landscapes in a very holistic way. So I dibble and dabble in many things, inclusive of doing some HCV mapping, high conservation value mapping. So some of the work that we've been getting on recently is trying to have a comprehensive map and spatial data of oil palm mills throughout Sabah. There's been a number of different files that have been available, some of which have just been hard copies, some have actually been spatial data. So what we've done is, I say we, me and an intern that we've had, Rachel, who's been helping us over the last month, and she'll continue to help us remotely and then come back in February, we're hoping. So we've been compiling the data together, and what we're doing at the moment is just going through and verifying, and also using online information to try and check the mill names, so that we can actually have something substantial and comprehensive wall-to-wall throughout Sabah. So that's something that is going to just be a work in progress over the next few months, really. We're hoping to really wrap it up by the end of October, and then be able to use it for a next step in terms of looking at mill catchment areas as well, which reads into smallholder work and other aspects too. So next slide. And then also, as Casey mentioned, he's leading HCV4. I'll be looking at leading HCV 5 and 6. So HCV 5 is all to do with community livelihoods, and 6 is cultural, spiritual sites. So it's been a bit of a rocky year in terms of the technical working group with a HCV. So it's been a bit of a kind of a start and stop process. But we've already had, for HCV 5 and 6, we've had a 3-day training earlier in the year with Diameter. And in the background, I've been working on some other data sets to help the process for HCV, as well as some other projects that we're involved in. So just briefly, I've been working on basic land use line cover maps using fine resolution imagery, so that we can really pull out even small patches of forest, which are important for HCV 5 and 6, as well as other aspects of HCV, so 1 to 4, which looks at more kind of species level, ecosystem level, and ecosystem services. So that is still ongoing. At the moment, I've got a draft, and then now I'm going through using a grid system and systematically going through and making sure that we've captured all of the classes accurately. And then what we're doing, me and Rachel is really leading on this, but the spatial data that we have for villages at the moment is non-comprehensive, and also it's pretty inaccurate. And I'm not sure exactly who, I think actually it was WWF, I got this data from WWF Germany. But it's pretty inaccurate, and so what we're doing at the moment is using a grid system again. We're using these data. There's about 1,500 villages. There's actually more than that, but as you rightly said, some villages are, this is back in January, some villages, no, you did, I remember. Some villages are kind of merging into kind of sprawled settlements. So what we're trying to do at the moment is really pull out village locations And then there's online land and survey information at the moment, and you can actually look at the names of the villages. That data that they're using is really inaccurate too. So there's point locations of villages in forest reserves or in the sea or really.
Yeah.
So I know, right? So we're just going through and we're trying to just have a really strong data set so we can actually really know how many villages, what are the name of those villages, and where are they. So that's one thing that we're doing at the moment. And so I've been working, for some of you who know my work, I've been working on land title information for years now, coming up with different methods, getting hard copies and digitizing them, and then at the moment, over the last few months, I've been taking snapshot images of the land and survey online information and then georeferencing that and then digitizing that, as well as other ways, and coming up with all of these, I think, quite creative ways. And the other day, our great intern was like, oh, I think you can maybe just find a way to download the JavaScript of the land and survey data. And so true enough, I have now all of it's available online. All of the land and survey land titles. We've got 512,000 titles in Sabah, and so I'm just going through the process of. Thank you. So I've already gone through the process of downloading 512 different JavaScript files from the website, and then now converting and then cleaning up, processing. And then what I'm wanting to do is, we've already been working a lot on another project, but I'm going to merge in
Land and survey.
Well, it's not hacking. Actually, it says that there's no risk. Well, they haven't speculated. Well, one, it's downloadable anyway, and then two, actually under the constraints, they've not actually speculated anything. So, yeah. I'd like to think I'm a hacker, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, but at the moment, the information in that is just. Can I finish up?
Yes, you can.
It's land title numbers and the dates of when the titles were given and other information. That's good, but it's not exactly what we wanted. So we've been working on another project whereby we've been identifying estate names and also companies who own those titles and whether they're RSPO. I know RSPO already has some title information available. But linking in all of this so that we can start to grow the data set, so we know which estates are owned by who and whether they're RSPO, whether they're not, and then ultimately link it to the palm oil mills and then be able to grow the information in terms of catchments for the small holdings as well as the estates. So it's all work in progress, and how I do this. So it's above and beyond 5 and 6 in terms, but we'll be able to easily identify through this process here how many communities, where are those communities, which communities. Through the fine scale mapping, we'll be able to at least pull out some crude information in terms of potential areas of HCVs. But also on top of that, through identifying who owns what estates, then we can also start to think about the management and monitoring of the HCVs and who's actually responsible. And also targeting what areas are still forested and potential HCVs within the areas that are already titled, as well as those areas that are outside of any titles at the moment. And then there's a whole lot of other stuff we need to do after this, whilst that's going on actually, and that's it. Oh no, there's another slide. I'm sorry. Well, this was just a week's workshop whereby there's a species action plan that's being developed by Leopard, and that's something that Yoga and myself and actually John was there too, and so we were a part of that, and we'll be doing facilitating that to some degree. And then I guess one of the highlights, low lights, medium lights, I'm not sure exactly, was a second stint in the hospital this time, but they put me in the kids ward. So last month, as you all knew, well, most of you knew, I think, I went in for surgery and it was completely unrelated to the back. So this year I've had back time in hospital and now surgery time in hospital. So me and Glenn Eagles are getting very pally-pally. But I'm all good and I'm healthier and I think I'm stronger and and I'm ready for more mapping. And have an awesome setup at home now, ergonomic task.
So, as for me, for the past few months, most of our things that we did was to keep up the track of the proposal, the program. So, most of the things that we do is doing centralized training. We had 30 participants, that is from the schools, government department, universities, where we did a basic introduction of the organic farming. So we show them what is inside the farm, that is the stimulus bee, how to manage the kitchen waste and start their own sustainable garden in their area. Especially in schools, because now it's the trend competitions of sustainable agriculture garden in each schools and also in few villages. So the participants are the one included in our proposal, that is from the Tonglan area and also So during this time also we went for the conference in Kuching, where we did some, the NSBC is National Economic Empowerment Coalition, is the church, Methodist Church, and also the one we had HOS. It was the same time, so we have to like split. I went to Kuching and I did the HOS. We had good networking around the churches to start their own awareness of the organic garden and also other things like husbandry. We also did training on how to breed. This is we started with catfish to know, because we are, as we know, we have started our aquaponics, so we need a catfish or some tilapia for our fertilizer for our garden. So we tried to breed catfish because we have this one old man from Papa, he has been doing this breeding. So now the fish is like 12 days today, babies. So but in the future we try to.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But I think this one is just a lesson, and we can develop our own catfish, our local. So it's just knowledge, and also we want to do for the future is the breeding of other like frog and also the kuyu fish, toruk, kakao.
I work on sharks. Sharks are a difficult thing, difficult, hard sell, because they are pretty intense. So I've tried to choose 3 of the friendliest, potentially even goofy-looking sharks that I could possibly find. So what is Sabah doing in this context? We're working with an alliance of other NGOs and for-profit organizations to raise the profile of sharks and also to develop multi-stakeholder ways forwards. And our real role has been strategizing and has been looking to raise some funds. We did raise funds in March of this year, and so I'm going to tell you about the work we're doing under that. Next, please. So with the work we're doing, we are working on the legal reform. Our funder actually was super keen on legal, and we persuaded them to fund some other stuff as well. But we are mainstreaming in the first instance the law. We got quite lucky because right at the start of our grant, our work, we had 6 new species of sharks and rays added to. They have become endangered species of fish, so you can't steal, harass, annoy, tease anything with these sharks and rays, which is good news. We're also doing research. There's actually a half-decent amount of research that's been done on sharks in Sabah, but as we sometimes find, the research is a little fragmented. We're pulling that together, we're conducting new research. One of the big things we want to do is, there was a 2012 study done by some Australian scientists on the value of ecotourism on sharks. And so now, late 2018, we want a new figure to show what that is, how valuable that is to the state. And even though those figures can be slightly one-dimensional or can be misused, they're also very, very powerful politically. And we've got a nice guy called Eric Yu, Yu being Chinese for shark, interestingly.
Malay.
Malay is it as well? Okay, both then. Who is doing some schools awareness raising and delivering beautiful photographs of children doing this kind of thing. Next, please. Last slide. Almost goofy, almost friendly, perhaps not, if you actually saw that. He doesn't like the camera angle. He's like, really? So close? Under the nose? But yes, so the main milestone for this work is a conference we're going to be holding February 2018. We're going to present all of our work in the morning, and then I'm very much hoping that Cynthia is going to help facilitate some dialogues around the core issues in the afternoon. You can imagine comfortable chairs, 4 or 5 people up there from government, non-government, others as well, tourism, trawler associations and others to discuss these real key issues and try and come out with some good ways forwards. We're going to call it the vision. We're trying to create a vision for sharks 2020, 2025 perhaps, to be decided, and we've had the minister who signed off on it, permanent secretary, we're meeting on Monday, and others. So that whole political side of that is rolling. And I think the important thing as well to underscore is that the conference is going to be great. We're going to pull in some key people for that meeting. And the day after the conference, we're going to have a huddle. So, not just go out with a bang, but afterwards have a chat about where we're at. We'll have the main funder here as well for that, and we'll make a plan about next steps. So that's the main milestone. Thanks. Any questions?
Hey, Wasian. Good morning or afternoon. Okay, so started work in Philippines for the last 4 years. It's my 4th year. So I think the most important milestone for me is organizing the second Sabah pertemuan community gathering.
Justin, Casey, can you guys mute your sound?
Oh, get off your motorbike.
Yeah, so it's really actually a work I feel that's happening in this landscape, that's getting people together and preparing. This year we have started to talk about this youth training. So we have launched a partnership with Rally, and have conducted one cycle of 3 series of natural resource management module of training for 3 clusters. So actually this afternoon we will be evaluating that, and then the next year, the next round for another 2 cycle with this group of villages that we started when we did the survey for the CSPO smallholder work 2 years back. So this year we have done that. especially two modules. The first module is the natural resource management, and the other one that we have completed is enterprise, business enterprise. There's only like 6 participants completed, but I think it's a very good program that we have started. The design, there's a lot of now reflection on that. And we also conducted together with this youth program, honorary wardens training. About 20 youths participated. But of course, to be a warden, you have to be above 21. So some of them were allowed to participate, but then they will go for the exam when they reach 21. So that was, I think, the milestone for this year, to have this work presented to the community or public, and we also for this year managed to get the participation from our supporter or our allies in the area, the district office, street partner, DIP, and so more communities in the four regions. We already mentioned 4 districts, so including the and also more on the platform, the forestry section on the community approach. So it was a very good, I think, activities that also mark our relationship in terms of planting the trees together at the Kawai Rainforest Camp. Yeah, so that was one work, one landscape. The other one is here in Penampang, the watershed, Babagon watershed, with the tree community, Ampasa, Babagon Tapi, and Klosunan. So I think for this workshop, this is also a very important milestone, because after working for about 4 months, 5 months, which Ken also presented how fast or how enthusiastic this community, I can understand, especially for Ampasa. It has been a long time since the dam was built, and there's very little, in a way, attention given to this community. So I was very happy, and when we actually did our quarter report to Hazana, and we were questioned why our work is not yet highlighted the relationship with the government, especially we have 3 objectives. Setting up the community structure, or the structure like the organization. Second one, of course, all of those mentioned, fish by KC, by the mapping, and can the dragonfly, all of these community activities which creates enthusiasm, exploding, and then also looking to the future. Really is marked with this meeting that Gerald chaired, and then we had the what you call the council, governance council, that we hope to launch next year. So this is like representative of 3 villages. Each village will be represented by 4 categories, which is the implementation committee, the traditional leadership, which is the Ketua Kampung and the village head, the women group, and the youth group. So, yeah, the meeting is really a remark. And then I have one more picture, which is more than just the, activities or, with money and all this. It creates that kind of undercurrent that we need to evoke, enlighten. So it was a very touching day. I like this poster done by my new. I mean, we really need, especially, sorry about this, but especially like our relationship with Rally. I think our work is very much building the people, getting there, but then writing and then doing this kind of things is really very little. So I feel that the work that is done to prepare and mobilize and everything, I can see. I mean, I read on Facebook or the blogs. So sometimes I say, FS work can be more on the side.
Okay.
Any questions?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Sorry to. Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so I'm Noel or Lan. Yes, I'm doing the North Sharing Community. It's Gamut composting. Okay, so just a milestone for Gamut for this year. The first one is the compost way that was done in April, which Carol was there, and then after that, definitely I came to Gamut to make a video of the whole composting project. And then after that, we went to CDO because she was there, Dio Lubita Paisuk, and also one of the MDPG counselor, Mr. Alvin, was there, and we were called to MDPG. They said the title was to start up the compost.
Launch.
To launch the compost in Gonggongon, and then in that meeting, they told us that they are going to do privatization in Gonggongon. So that was like a huge loss to our the green waste, which is the source of the compost. And so we actually didn't know how the privatization went. So we went to Putatan, hoping that we can get the green waste in Putatan. So the DO in Putatan was so honest with us, saying this is the order from
State Assembly.
above. Not that. The State Assembly. So now we re-strategize. Thinking of something new for Gamut. So this is like our first meeting with the pengurus the JKK in the village. So now we have 3 villages coming together to start a community garden that also give awareness to people about how to do their own green waste. Not the green waste, to do the composting, but saving the green waste from going to the landfill. Now the community this is my village now. They are starting from one village, so they are starting to segregate their waste. Now they're bringing the green waste to make compost in the community garden. So we prepared a plot for them. They're putting all the green waste there, making like a garden. Okay, so this is my first picture. Then the next picture is sunrise in Hawaii Rainforest Camp. So I was there for almost the whole August to help in doing the Heart of Sabah community gathering. And this is one of the sunrise that I took from Hawaii. Also energized me back, rooting me back to why I first started this work, which is to help people and also the environment. So in Hawaii Rainforest Camp, it is in the Celebi program. So to give a picture on the people that is in the Celebi program is, how do I say it? It's a bunch of crazy, clever people. They have very big ideas, but they don't know where to park the ideas. So what Celebi did was to give a chance for them to realize the crazy idea that they have.
Celebi is Sustainable Alternative Livelihoods for Youth, Morning. That's the program.
The crazy young people. Okay, so next one. Okay, so after the Heart of Sabah community gathering, so I came back to Pinampang to launch the community garden. So they launching the community garden, and also during the launching, the JKK was asking what are the other programs that we can do. So we collaborated with them. They did this one, we call it Buddy. Buddy means Tamo. in Kuwait. So they did it. The garden is down there. So this is they are doing it like once a month, tamu. So every month they will do a tamu, and also they said they wanted to have like the community garden because they are divided into plots. Each people get one plot. So they said we should make a competition to see who have like the best plot or anything that they want. Yeah. Then, yeah, that's all.
Hello.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rosli. Working specifically with Peter's Law in the last few months. There's no major milestones in other areas. So as for Kampung Pitas, they're one of the 8 kampungs that we have identified as a location that is suitable to private sustainable fisheries, and we want to develop this in this village, and then build the know-how, and then use that to transfer the knowledge of developing sustainable fisheries into the other kampungs. So the major milestone for this kampung is for the first time ever they were flown over to KK to attend the awards, the grand presentation at Coastras last month, and they were able to mingle with a lot of people, including Raymond. Soon after that, we had our sustainable fisheries workshop. We invited Wendy Sadi's office. He was supposed to come and officiate the workshop, but he didn't show up. The villagers were very happy because this is the first time in almost 30 years that someone from the government representative actually went to the kampung and met the people and talked to them. This is after so many months, I finally was able to produce a map that shows the community areas where they fish, where they harvest non-timber forest products. You can also see that it's actually a reef here somewhere. And with this, it's going to help guide me on finishing all the other community maps that I need to do. There's 7 more to go. So this is Peter's Road. Next slide. And following Peter's Road is Kampung Seriganda. Their focus is slightly different than Peter's Road. Initially, when they first engaged with us back in 2014, they wanted to do tourism. They wanted to get visitors to go to the kampung and look at the bosses mountains with birds. But soon they realized that their strongest asset is big fish over here. It's one of the least known snapper family species, and all of the work that we're doing in Singapore is focusing on developing an alternative livelihood that is based on this species, and also developing strategies on how to conserve the species. We are waiting, and we've been calling the fisheries department of Sabah to come to the site and to work with the community to gazette the first ever tagal in the east coast of Sabah. But of course, it's not going to be a direct carbon copy with all the tagal sites in the interior parts of Sabah, where the rules and regulations does not apply to a community that is 99% of fishes. So we are developing the fishing protocols that meets the needs of this community. Hopefully next month we will be able to get the director of fisheries to come down and then finish up all the processes that needs to be done. Next slide. And in addition to that, we are working closely with the Kampung Munia to develop the. So Kampung Munia is a pilot site for community-based water quality monitoring in the Ramsar site. Again, it's the same process. We're developing the know-how, building the relationship with government, including making friends with the YB, to get the YB to understand that we are not just there to say no to the bridge, but we are actually working with your people to build solutions. This is the equipment that we just finally been able to get our hands on. I'm going to forestry department tomorrow to learn how to use this and teach communities how to use it. It's a multi-parameter that is being used to do in situ testing. You can take 13 or 15 parameters in one go. It's also equipped with a GPS logger. So myself and Rosli have been tagging along to work in the Ramsar site with these communities. Some of the communities are a bit left out. We have to go back to them and then revisit the first questions. What do you want? What is your problem? How can we address the gaps and move on? That's it really. As far as milestones, so one, because the community has managed to get a grant from Shell to find in fisheries. Sri Ganda will become the first tanggal site in the East Coast, and we got out. And the third milestone is we finally got our hands on this very expensive piece of equipment for the use in the Ramsar.
You just talk about Dagat.
Dagat, there's so many more. Dagat has been strongly active in building FF. Najib was in Penang last month to showcase the community making efforts. Sri Ganda is registering for the intake for the upcoming BFF that's going to be held in KK 20th of September. We are working closely with Rainforest Fund. The guy, what is his name? Robert H. He was in contact with us in the last few days, and he said he's very committed to work in that, and we are also. He wants to work with us because he knows that we are good with engaging. We know how to engage people, talk, and he does it.
What happened to the best?
The best, yeah. They also met with SGP. They're getting a grant for themselves, so it's going to lift some weight off our shoulders. In addition to that, we've just something from Martin's update. Rosli and Martin will get some financial support from EU Red Plus. That means I can finally hire someone to help me in the Ramsar side. SGP has been quietly complaining to Rosli, and they said, can you please tell Neville to hire someone? We've identified suitable candidates for the job. We will mostly go to hiring next week.
Hello everyone, I'm Stasha, part of the two-person team in Media and Communications. We have all met my teammate Yana. So we've recently started with this company, so we don't feel that we have a lot of milestones compared to you guys. But I mean, what you guys have been doing are awesome. So for my second week, I've had the chance to go to Kampung Kolosinan with Dr. Ken, Azman, and one of our interns, John. And from there, I learned that they were doing this activity where they were collecting and recording dragonflies and fish species, and collecting that data to see who has the most recorded species in the area. And I've also learned that the dragonflies are part of a bioindicator towards a healthy ecosystem, so that's pretty cool for me to learn. And I just realized that Kampung Kolosinan also won the competition, So yay, congrats to them. And yeah.
Seeing aunties in action, and that's Asman's
Yes,
mom for those who don't know.
Asman's mom.
Oh.
Yes. So that's part of the thing. Yep. And then for our second week, we had this 5-day course workshop where we learned communication for development. So this means that we're using various tools to help identify and communicate for communities and families. So our facilitators were Dr. Peter Chen and Dr. Gopi Menon. So this workshop was also partly joined by UNICEF, and it was held at UMS. And so it's basically like a two-way process of sharing ideas and knowledge towards using a range of communications tools to empower individuals and communities to improve their lives. And communication also works at a lot of other media, such as mass media, social behavior, change, and interpersonal communication. So this has like a critical role in enabling communities to create a more sustainable livelihood towards reaching their goals. And then the last slide. Last weekend we had a solidarity with Tampasak, and in conjunction with Hasana Day. So this day was we went to Kampung Tampasak and then to see how the Babagon Dam has affected their livelihood in terms of psychological, economical, and sociological livelihood as well. So the communities of the community of Kampung Tampasak, the villagers sacrificed a lot because of this Babagon Dam, and they were promised various things just to get them to move basically out of their original land, and they had to sacrifice all their ancestral lands, all their plantations and livestock as well. So we hope that on this day we could have at least recognized and acknowledged that we see their sacrifice, and perhaps from here we will try to create more awareness on this thing. And yeah.
Thank you.
Wait. Are you having fun?
Yes.
What's been the most surprising thing for you?
Everything, like discovering how many partnerships for Sabah is with, and then like towards creating like a more ecological, sustainable Sabah. You guys are awesome. So yeah, just learning about all that. Very awesome.
Sasha and Liana, remember Cass's role and Jass's role. Sasha and Liana are now part of that team, and they are responsible for content, hanging out with you guys and hearing what's happening, and then taking those narratives and putting them in the depository, working with Jas. So whether they're shared on websites or shared in proposals or shared in reports, that's their role. So it's narratives, content, and coordinating events, and coordinating things like today.
Producing amazing posters.
And producing very nice posters like the Tampasak one. That was their first poster, but yeah. Good job, great. Thank you.
Just a tiny question for the work in with the Dragon Flies and citizen science. Have you thought about submitting a photo essay to Mangube or someone else?
No, actually. we were trying to create like a blog story about the competition, and then probably the publication after that. So I'm currently working closely with Dr. Ken on that as well, so following up on the research and blogs. Ken. Okay. Ken.
All right. Okay. Thanks. I'm showing the same picture as Ingrid. So what I'm going to talk about is process, since I'm the queen of process and that's my job. And really, along with having my eye on process, I have my eye on the architecture of spaces. So what does it look like to open new spaces, to find little openings that interject and create a new space for something different to happen by bringing all the necessary people to the table. So in this case, this was Department of Agriculture, industry, sawit industry, Wahapsang, Roma, etc. And RSPO and WWF was there and ourselves. And this was really trying to bring government agencies strongly into the jurisdiction certification process. Next slide shows you from there one small working group, which is the smallholder working group, and that was the first meeting. And then we go to the larger group. This is the Jurisdiction Certification Steering Committee. And you know this is 1/3 government, 1/3 civil society, and 1/3 industry. Just again showing you the architecture of spaces, new spaces and processes by which we come up with different solutions and then kind of change the dynamics and rebuild our relationships. Next. And then it goes all the way down to the ground. So this is Interlupit. It was with Telupit, Tongon, Bularan, and Kinabatangan, again showing you the smallholders and the Department of Ag, but on the ground. The DAD, but on the ground. DFO, but on the ground. So we don't just work with the guys at the top. We work with the people on the ground, and we work very closely with them. We hear their versions of the story as well as the versions at the top. So as you can see, in terms of architecture, it's really this whole bottom-up, top-down, construct as well. So being able to hear firsthand the stories here really empowers, what we bring to the table at those earlier photos, because it's bringing the voices of the people directly impacted. Next. Then this is at a whole nother level. This was the meeting that was chaired by the State Secretary. And everybody here you see are the heads of departments. Everybody was there from the Environment Protection Department, Lands and Survey, DID. I mean, everyone. I was quite impressed by how many heads of department was there. Daryl was there, and Wilmar represented, and then FS was represented by me, SFD was there, NRO was there. So this was taking all the work that we've done today at the JCSC level as we take it higher and higher up the food chain. And so, as you know, we have a 5-year plan to achieve the certification. And the 5-year plan is now, since this meeting, it's on its way officially to the cabinet to be endorsed. And that means high-level change in policy and various things that will enable us to achieve the jurisdiction certification. So this was a very groundbreaking meeting. Next. This is, again, about architectural process. This is the FMU 5 meeting. So we've had many, many such meetings in different configurations. And again, it's the first with government and civil society at the table, talking about how we manage a key FMU. And it is not just for the sake of this one FMU, but it's again to change process for all FMUs in Sabah. And I think it's a new thing to be really in engagement with each other, because typically in the past it was, this is forestry's position, this is NGO's position, and there's a huge gap here. And forestry or government and companies do their thing, and we shout over here and nobody hears us. So now it's eyeballing each other at the table. Pretty intense. Emails and and meetings in person. And you saw earlier the update. We were able to fundamentally change a forest management plan, and that's just the start of things. Next. This again, Yogi shared this picture, also very groundbreaking, again about process and architecture of spaces. The first time we had all 3 kampungs represented, and then all the relevant government agencies. As we build governance for the kampung, we build on the government side, and we build this engagement between the two towards payment for ecosystem services. So this is the first year called readiness, and year 2 and 3 is where we hope to build the mechanism for PES. So we felt that we needed this strong foundation of readiness before we did that. And already it was so powerful where we discussed land issues, overlapping of forest reserve and kampung land. All the hot issues were put on the table and discussed for the first time. And again, this is a pilot for Sabah. So everything, as you can see, is opening the way for the greater Sabah through one pilot or one project. I think that's the last slide then. So all that to say, really, Ilan particularly knew, all the projects you saw, there was some kind of architecturing of process and relationships to create new spaces for people to come together in a different way. And that's what essentially Forest Sabah does. And then we try to raise the resources necessary for whatever coalesces and people decide is the way forward to happen. I think that ends it.